I, 22-year-old female, have been saving my baby items from when I was young. This ranges from clothing, blankets, bibs, bottles, decor, crib bedding, and other miscellaneous items. I had it all in boxes in my closet, some decor I had displayed in my room. I have sentimental attachment to it and want to pass it down to my children in hopes of it being a family heirloom one day. My sister, 26-year-old female, had her first child, my niece. I love my sister and her little family. I adore and love my niece, and I've gotten a few baby items or toys for her as well. When I returned home from university, I noticed that the decor I had displayed was gone. I asked my mom about it, and she said my sister saw the decor and she told her to take it. I told her that I was saving it for my future children, and my mom just denied that it was valuable to me. Regardless, I didn't want to argue with her about it. I went back to my room and saw that all of my boxes were gone as well. I called my sister to confirm, and yes, she had taken everything. I tried to be reasonable, and I told her, I would like everything back once you're done with it. My sister got very angry at me, saying that it was hers now, and she plans to use it for her other children, and then pass it down. I told her that this was all my baby stuff, and if she wanted heirlooms, she should have saved her own baby items. Her argument was that she never planned on having children, so she didn't save anything. Mom gave her the stuff, so now it's hers, and that I should just deal with it because if it was so important, why didn't you take it with you to college? At this point, I felt like I was arguing with a brick wall. I demanded my stuff back immediately and said I'd go over to her house and get it back myself. I tried to be nice and let her use it until my niece grew out of it, but she just doesn't want to give it back at all. She told my mom, and my mom yelled at me saying that technically, all of my baby items are my mom's possessions since she purchased them. Thus, my mom has every right to give to whoever she pleases. My mom and sister also claim that I'm lying about these items being valuable to me, and I'm just saying that to be rude. Mom, sister, and brother-in-law say I'm in the wrong. My dad isn't getting into it. My other siblings are minors, below 10 years old, so I'm not taking their opinions seriously. Basically, the entire family is against me, and I don't know what to do. I do know that my sister isn't well off, but I did offer her to keep the items for now, but that wasn't enough for her. Am I the idiot? Edit. I wanted to add some clarifications due to comments. My mom saved our things, as well as my younger siblings, and we all have them in our closets. Those items were mainly clothing and bedding. When my sister moved out, she was sorting through things and decided she didn't need them. Her reasoning, to my understanding, being she didn't plan on having children. Ever since she was a teen, she said she didn't want children, so she decided to donate them all. She was maybe 23 or 24 when she moved out, so it wasn't that long ago, and in my opinion, she was grown enough to see the impact of that. We have a younger sister, and she didn't take her things one, because my mom didn't let her in two, because my things are closer to the time my sister was born in, and she wanted more older style items rather than modern. However, a lot of the items, such as toys or decor, were used in my room until I did a remodel of my room in my teens. Those items were my decision to save. Also, the bottles and bibs were in the back of the kitchen storage, which I also decided to save once I was older. My mom does take the credit for saving clothing and bedding and some blankets, but some of it was my decision to save as well. Other blankets, decor, bottles, toys, etc. Also, I still live at home. I go to university out of state, so I live on campus during the school year and come home during breaks. My room is still mine until I move out, which is hopefully soon once I graduate in December. Edit 2. I am Mexican, so a lot of the items are culturally significant. My bibs were not regular bibs you can buy at Walmart. They have cultural significance. The bottles are glass and the body part have been removed. Some of that blankets and bibs even have my name embroidered. I'm not sure what my sister is doing with those items, or if she will remove my name and put my niece's name over the top. I know it might seem silly to pass down these items to my kids, but I have that sentiment, and that was my plan for years now. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're not the jerk. Your mom seems to be enabling your sister's poor decision-making. Regardless of whether or not she knew those items had sentimental value to you, once she learned, she should have set things straight. And by set things straight, I'll be clear that the bare minimum expectation should be for her to return them to you when her child grows out of them. Hanging on to them, knowing they have sentimental value to you, is just cruel. Sorry you're going through this, OP. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your sister and mom are massive ones, though. Once your mom gave them to you as a child, they were yours and yours alone. If it was so important, why didn't you take it with you to college? Who takes baby stuff to college? Personally, this would be my hill to die on. I get my stuff back or I no longer have a family. But that is me, and I am very protective of items that belong to my babyhood and youth. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post and for all your comments and support. It's been a tough couple of weeks since I last updated, and a lot has happened that I want to share with you. After my initial confrontation with my sister about taking my baby items, things only got worse. I tried to have a calm conversation with her, explaining how much those items meant to me and how I had been saving them for years to pass down to my own children someday. But she just wouldn't listen. She kept insisting that since mom had given her the items, they were hers now, and she had no intention of returning them. I was so frustrated and hurt by her attitude. These weren't just random baby items to me. They were a part of my childhood, my heritage, and my dreams for the future. I had always imagined passing them down to my own kids, telling them stories about how I had used them as a baby and how they had been in our family for generations. But now it felt like that dream was being ripped away from me. As the days went by, the tension between me and my sister only grew. We barely spoke to each other, and when we did, it was only to argue about the baby items. My mom tried to play mediator, but it was clear that she was on my sister's side. She kept telling me to let it go, that I was being selfish and unreasonable. But then something happened that brought all of our hidden feelings to the surface. My sister announced that she was pregnant with her second child. At first, I was happy for her. Despite our differences, I love my sister and I want her to be happy. But then she started talking about how excited she was to use all of the baby items she had taken from me for her new baby. That's when I lost it. I couldn't hold back my anger and hurt anymore. I confronted her, telling her how selfish and entitled she was being. I reminded her that those items were mine, that I had been saving them for years, and that she had no right to take them from me. But she just laughed in my face, telling me that I was being ridiculous and that I needed to grow up. That's when I realized that this wasn't just about the baby items anymore. This was about a deeper issue between me and my sister, one that had been brewing for years. Growing up, my sister had always been the favorite. She was the oldest, the prettiest, the most popular. I had always felt like I was living in her shadow, trying to measure up to her in some way. And now, with the baby items, it felt like she was taking something else away from me, something that was mine, that I had cherished and saved for years. It felt like she was telling me that I didn't deserve to have those items, that I wasn't good enough to be a mother someday. I knew that I needed to stand up for myself, to fight for what was rightfully mine. So I went to my sister's house and demanded that she give me back my baby items. At first, she refused, but I wouldn't back down. I told her that if she didn't give them back, I would take legal action. I knew it was a bluff, but I was desperate. To my surprise, she actually gave in. She handed over the boxes of baby items, but not without a few snide remarks about how I was being a baby myself. I didn't care though. I was just happy to have my things back. But even though I had won this battle, I knew that the war between me and my sister was far from over. There were still so many unresolved issues between us, so many years of resentment and jealousy that had never been addressed. I realized that if I wanted to move forward, I needed to confront those issues head on. I needed to have an honest conversation with my sister about how I had always felt overshadowed by her, how I had always struggled to find my place in the family. And I needed to listen to her side of the story too, to try to understand where she was coming from. It wasn't going to be easy, but I knew it was necessary, because at the end of the day, despite all of our differences, my sister is still my family. And I don't want to let a few baby items come between us forever. Thanks for reading, everyone. I'll keep you updated on how things go with my sister. Wish me luck. Am I the idiot for not paying my brother after he babysat but lectured us on our parenting? I, 26-year-old male, have 3 kids under 5 years old, 2 4-year-old females, and 1 2-year-old male, with a 4th child on the way. Before having kids, my wife and I had many ideas about the kind of parents we were going to be, and we often looked down on parents who had different parenting styles than us. However, as any parent knows, actually raising kids is hard work, and you sometimes have to compromise your values. My 22-year-old brother is studying psychology, and he has taken a few modules on child psychology and development. He frequently tells me that he believes children who spend too much time on iPads are spoiled brats and will have developmental difficulties, and that their parents are lazy and neglectful. I wouldn't say my kids are iPad kids, but they do share an iPad between the three of them and have more screen time than I would prefer. However, sometimes you have to make compromises. My brother also disapproves of the fact that we give our kids sweets as bribes occasionally, and that we have sometimes lied to our kids. Every time he shares his views on parenting, I just laugh and tell him to try being a parent himself, and then I might be more open to his advice. Recently, due to an emergency, my wife and I needed a babysitter for an entire day. Despite his judgment, I called my brother because he is actually very good with our kids. When we returned home in the evening, the kids were already in bed after having dinner, and we thanked him profusely. He earnestly told us that now that he had experienced being a parent, he understood that it was very easy to not let kids use screens, and that they hadn't watched TV or used their iPad during the 12 hours he was there. He also mentioned that he had calmed their fears about the emergency, read to them, and didn't have to bribe them with sweets. He said that he dealt with calm, relaxed children, unlike the brats they usually are when they are with me, his words. He then proceeded to give us a 20-minute lecture about our parenting mistakes, now that he was in a position to give advice. We had planned to give him £200 as a thank you for looking after the kids at such short notice and for such a long time, but we sent him away without paying him. The next day, I called him to tell him that I felt his behavior was incredibly inappropriate. I thanked him for looking after the kids, but I suggested that it would be better if he didn't see them for a while. It seemed clear to me that his behavior, especially after a stressful day, showed how immature he really was. I told him that he didn't actually know anything about parenting because he wasn't a parent himself. I admit that I may have gone too far, but later my mom called me a jerk because my brother was crying. She said that he was just trying to help and that I'm a bad parent for responding so rudely to his kindness. Now my brother and parents are angry with me and not talking to me. Am I the jerk, Aita? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're the idiot. We had lots of scorn for people who parented in ways we disagreed with. This really set the tone for your post. You and your wife seem aggressive and judgmental. Something tells me your brother did not lecture you about your parenting and just reported how the kids did, and you took it way too personally. Comment 2, everyone sucks here. Your kids are going to end up being brats if you don't quit with the bribery and screen time. Your brother's child psychology courses have made him a bit of a pompous butt. Still, you don't have to be a parent to recognize bad parenting, just like you don't have to be a plumber to spot a leaky pipe. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a tense 2 weeks since my last post, and I've got a lot to share. After the blow-up with my brother, things were pretty tense at home. My wife and I were both stressed out, trying to juggle work, the kids, and the fallout from the argument. We barely had time to talk about what happened, let alone figure out how to move forward. A few days later, my mom showed up at our house unannounced. She said she wanted to talk things out and help us patch things up with my brother. At first, I was reluctant to even let her in, still feeling raw from her calling me a jerk. But my wife convinced me to hear her out. We sat down at the kitchen table, and my mom started by apologizing for her harsh words. She said she understood why I was upset with my brother, but that she also saw where he was coming from. She reminded me of how much he looks up to me and how much he loves our kids. She said that even though he went about it the wrong way, he was just trying to help. As we talked, I started to see things from a different perspective. I realized that maybe I had been too quick to dismiss my brother's concerns about our parenting. Sure, he doesn't have kids of his own, but that doesn't mean he can't have valid insights. And even if I don't agree with everything he says, I should at least be open to hearing him out. My mom also shared some stories from when I was a kid, reminding me of how much she and my dad had struggled with parenting at times. She talked about the mistakes they had made and the lessons they had learned. It was a side of them I had never really seen before, and it made me realize that maybe I wasn't giving them enough credit either. By the end of the conversation, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew I needed to apologize to my brother and try to make things right. My mom offered to set up a family dinner so we could all talk things out. The dinner was a bit awkward at first, but as we started to open up and really listen to each other, things started to improve. My brother apologized for being so judgmental and admitted that he had a lot to learn about parenting. I apologized for overreacting and shutting him out. We both agreed to try to be more understanding and supportive of each other going forward. Since then, things have been a lot better. My brother has been coming over more often to spend time with the kids, and he's been a big help around the house. He's even started doing some research on child development and has been sharing some interesting articles with us. But the biggest change has been in my own attitude. I've been trying to be more open-minded and less defensive when it comes to parenting advice. I've been reading more about different parenting styles and trying to incorporate some new ideas into our routine, and I've been making more of an effort to communicate with my wife about our parenting goals and challenges. It hasn't been easy, and there have been some bumps along the way. Just last week, we had a bit of a setback when our oldest daughter threw a tantrum at the grocery store. I was tempted to give in and buy her the candy she was screaming for, but my wife reminded me of our new no bribes policy. It was a tough moment, but we stuck to our guns and managed to calm her down without resorting to sweets. Looking back, I realized that this whole experience has been a bit of a wake-up call for me. It's easy to get stuck in your ways as a parent, especially when you're juggling so many different responsibilities. But sometimes it takes an outside perspective to help you see things in a new light. I'm grateful for my brother's honesty, even if it was hard to hear at first. And I'm grateful for my mom's wisdom and support. Most of all, I'm grateful for my wife and kids, who inspire me every day to be the best parent I can be. It's been a challenging couple of weeks, but I feel like we've come out stronger as a family. And who knows, maybe my brother will be a parent himself someday and will finally understand what it's really like. But for now, I'm just happy to have him back in our lives and to be working together to raise our kids the best way we know how. Thanks for sticking with me through this long update. It means a lot to have your support and understanding. Until next time, take care. Am I the idiot for going on a memorial trip without waiting for my sister who prioritizes her biological family over us? I, 23 years old, female, have a biological brother, 24 years old, and an adopted sister, 27 years old. She was adopted when I was a year old, and she was around 4 years old. For most of my life, my sister received all the attention from our parents, and my brother and I were just there. My parents would bend over backwards to make sure she felt like a part of the family, which is great, except they didn't bother to make my brother and I feel included. When she was 19 years old, we found her biological family, and they have a great relationship now. But I feel like this completely ruined our own family dynamic. Our dad died 5 years ago, and it seems like she just moved on from our dad to the other dad, and is also slowly moving on from our family to her biological family. Her biological mom's side also seems to have a problem with us because we are white and my sister is black. So every time we try to be involved in activities, there are always jabs at us, and I think they encourage her to become distant from us. My mom still acts like my sister is the center of our world, though. The last 2 Thanksgivings, we had to have family Thanksgiving dinner days before because my sister was going to have Thanksgiving with her biological family. Same for the previous Christmas, we exchanged gifts by the 20th. And my sister didn't even bring my nephew as he was at his biological grandma's. My final straw has been a trip we had been planning in honor of my dad. On the 5-year anniversary of his passing, we were going to plant an orchard in a certain African country my dad worked and lived in for years, and we visited many times. Planting this was something my dad had planned before he died, and had it planned to a T, so we would only be executing his plan. We had agreed that the 5-year anniversary felt like the perfect time. Except now my sister's biological sister will be getting married around the same time, not the same day, but it means my sister can only join us after the actual anniversary day. My mom says it's okay, we can plant the trees a week or 2 later, and she actually said that when we plant the trees doesn't make much difference. We'll still be honoring him, but that my sister will only ever get to attend her sister's wedding once. She says it's a week's worth of work anyway, so it's not like we were going to be done on the actual day. This made me mad, and I have told them I will be breaking the ground on the actual anniversary day with or without any of them. She said I was being inconsiderate and that I should think about how this will make my sister feel like she doesn't matter to the family. My sister has been part of our family the same amount of time I have been, only she can exclude herself. My brother keeps flip-flopping between coming with me to be there for the anniversary or waiting for my mom and sister some days later, and I honestly can't also blame him. Am I the jerk for insisting I am not waiting on anyone? The trip is in 2 months. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Chances are something will come up and she'll change her mind and not go at all. Tell mom that it's okay if she wants to wait for sister since she's the only mom ever cared about anyway. Let brother make his own choice. Go and continue with your plans. Mom wanting to change plans is not only disrespectful to you, but all those in the other country who have been helping plan this on their end. Comment 2, not the idiot. It's good to leave the ball in their court. I'll be there on the anniversary. You have 2 months to make your decision. Let me know your plans so we can meet there. Leave their arrangements to them. Do not sponsor a lovely vacation for people who may try closer to the date to rearrange things behind your back. Make sure you're the lead coordinator for everything so they can't meddle. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post. It's been a month since I shared my story, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. After I made my decision to break ground on the orchard on the actual anniversary of my dad's passing, things got pretty tense with my mom and sister. They tried to convince me to wait, but I stood my ground. I knew in my heart that honoring my dad on that specific day was the right thing to do. As the anniversary approached, my brother finally made up his mind to join me. We flew out together, and as we stood there in the African soil, shovels in hand, I felt a mix of emotions. Grief for my dad, anger at my mom and sister for not being there, but also a sense of peace knowing we were fulfilling his wish. While we were planting the first trees, I couldn't help but think back to a conversation I had with my dad years ago. He told me about how he fell in love with this place, how the people and the land had touched his soul. He said he wanted to give something back, to leave a piece of himself here. That memory made me even more certain that I was doing the right thing. Meanwhile, my sister was at her biological sister's wedding. I tried not to let it bother me, but it stung that she chose that over honoring our dad. I couldn't help but wonder if she would have made the same choice if it had been her biological father we were commemorating. When my mom and sister finally arrived a week later, the atmosphere was awkward. We had already done a lot of the work, and it felt like they were just there for show. My mom tried to smooth things over, but I could tell she was disappointed in me for not waiting. Over the next few days, as we worked on the orchard together, I started to notice a change in my sister's demeanor. She seemed distant, like she was just going through the motions. One evening, I overheard her on the phone with her biological mom, talking about how she couldn't wait to get back home to her real family. That hurt, but it also made me realize something. My sister has always struggled with her identity, torn between two families. As much as we've tried to make her feel included, perhaps we've never truly understood what it's like to be in her shoes. The trip ended, and we all went back to our lives. But things haven't been the same since. My relationship with my sister feels strained, and my mom seems to be walking on eggshells around both of us. I know we need to have a real conversation about all of this, but I'm not sure where to start. Looking back, I don't regret my decision to honor my dad on the anniversary, but I do wish I had handled things differently with my family. I realize now that grief can make us selfish, can blind us to the needs of others. I'm still learning how to navigate these complex family dynamics, and I know it won't be easy. But I also know that my dad would have wanted us to stick together, to find a way to understand and support each other despite our differences. So that's what I'm going to try to do, one day at a time. Thanks for listening, everyone. It helps to share my story with people who can relate. Until next time, take care. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.